Now, look, we've got to unpack Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is diabolical, to say the least. Now, she has attempted to clarify her crippling and debilitating public hallucination that she suffered on the world stage in Munich last week when she was asked about Taiwan. But have a listen to her explanation.
If you think that I don't understand foreign policy because out of hours of discourse about international affairs, I pause to think about one of the most sensitive geopolitical issues that currently exist on Earth, I'm afraid the issue's not my understanding.
Wow. Okay, a couple of things to unpack there. One, you can barely hear her properly because her voice is raspy. Secondly, she's blaming Donald Trump for the fact that she is so dense. And thirdly, there's snoring in the background. So her partner is in the background asleep snoring. She's uploaded this video. It doesn't exactly scream, I am a foreign policy expert, does it?
No, I mean, it doesn't even scream, I'm a congresswoman. This screams like crazy ex-girlfriend. Who does this? It really is so deranged that, first of all, you have a flub on the world stage. Okay, she has to own that. She has to own that her people actually put out a tweet saying, we've prepared her for days for this. She was over-prepared only to talk about socialist theory and how much she hated Donald Trump. She did not go in there prepared to talk about foreign policy. That is her fault. Has no one else can be blamed for that. That is her fault. She has to own that. But she doesn't necessarily have to come out and say, you know, I made a mistake. Just move on. A real professional, I mean, she could look at some of the women in her party from years past, and she would see that a real professional goes, okay, I made a mistake. I'm going to move on. I'm going to point out the good things that I did. But she didn't. I mean, what has happened over the last few days, honestly? Where did her voice go? Has she been like a screaming maniac? And if you have no voice, here's a suggestion to AOC. If you 3 days or 4 days after you come back from a failed trip have lost your voice, and that many days later you decide you have to respond to something that happened, and you look like maybe you've been screaming about it from losing your voice, don't respond. Do not do this video. Do not sit next to someone who is sleeping like you are a prisoner in the corner of some bedroom. I don't even know what's behind her. You can see like a bed headboard or something, and she's like whispering into the camera with no voice. Her voice has clearly been lost. She looks like a lunatic. She's not prepared for actually moving up. I mean, and think about how bizarre this is. This is someone that Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, was so scared of. He let the government be shut down for the longest government shutdown we've ever had in the United States because he was afraid of this woman who's a total deranged, crazy ex-girlfriend.
She's a mouse. I mean, the fact that he was scared of her, I mean, it's beyond belief, Tudor. And you're right. She should have just kept quiet. Maybe she's been on the wines, Kamala Harris style. We know that I think that Kamala is her idol in life, clearly. And now, look, a very
they talk the same.
They talk the same. The word salads in Munich were exactly the same as we've seen from word salads of Kamala's past, that's for sure. Now, big week ahead, okay? Now, I'll say this. Get your popcorn out because Bill and Hillary Clinton, they're going to face US Congress to outline their ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And I don't know about you, but I can't wait to hear the former president explain this infamous photo in the late pedophile's hot tub. I cannot wait to find out. This is going to be interesting, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Hillary explained it already. She was like, you know, he's doing foundation work. I'm like, how many foundations do you have to like spend your time in the hot tub with people who are clearly blacked out? Obviously, women that were too young to even be exposed in these hot tubs. I mean, this is ridiculous, but I look forward to seeing how she handles this because I think she's another one that has really not handled the spotlight the way she should have. And this is why she's so unlikable. This is why she couldn't win the presidency. So she was able to win the Senate seat in a very blue state. Let's face it, she didn't go back to Arkansas. She went to New York. She won the Senate seat. She then became Secretary of State, but she's never really earned anything on her own. So when she tried to go out and become president, she was so crazed and so angry. People just didn't like her. I think that's what we're going to see when she comes out and she starts talking about this, because look at her also in Germany. Remember when the Czech politician says to her, I think you just don't like Trump. And she lost it on him. She was like, I don't like him. That's right. He's taking away women's rights. And he was like, what are you talking about? Look, we believe there's two genders. She went off again. She had to be asked 3 times in that one panel to let the man speak. So what could she possibly be like when she's facing her own, having to face what her husband did and potentially her as well? I mean, these people attended her daughter's wedding. They definitely had some close relationship with the Clintons that they are going to have to explain. And I just think that we're going to see a very unhinged Hillary Clinton. I think Bill is well prepared for this because he's been living with Hillary, but Hillary's not prepared.
Oh, no, Hillary's not prepared. Look, her performance over at Munich was an absolute disaster. And she's been trying to talk the good talk. No, we have no links. We've got no links. But as you said, there are links at weddings. So we need to find out what went on, who knew what. And as I said, I cannot wait to hear what they have to say, especially that explanation. In a way, I almost feel sorry for Hillary having to listen to her husband's indiscretions, yet again, as if she hasn't done that once in her life, that's for sure.
It's hard to feel sorry for Hillary these days.
It is hard to feel sorry. I will retract that statement. I just think, gosh, as a wife, she's been through a lot with that president, let me say that. Now, look, there has been chaos at a Mexican resort town. It's actually quite frightening. Drug cartels lashed out after the leader of the brutal Jalisco New Generation cartel was killed in a military raid. The vision, as you can see, they're frightening. Tourists in Puerto Vallarta were warned to stay indoors as narco gangs went on a rampage. It follows the death of drug kingpin Nemesio El Mencho Oseguera Cervantes. The US State Department urged Americans to shelter in place. And also some American tourists have been reportedly trapped in that region, Tudor. What is the latest? This is very concerning.
Yeah, obviously we've seen actually some of the other towns that have also been brought in, and we've seen some fires in some adjoining towns. This is very dangerous. This is very scary what we're seeing, but this is not a shock to Americans. Let me be clear. Americans have been saying, especially Republicans have been saying for a very long time, these cartels own Mexico. These cartels are very, very dangerous. They own, I will tell you, we didn't have an open border. We had a border controlled by the Mexican cartels. Under Joe Biden, he allowed them to become more and more powerful. And by having that open border, they were bringing in $1 billion a day, moving not just drugs, but moving people across that border. People were a very lucrative, the transport of people, sex trafficking was very lucrative for them for those 4 years under Joe Biden. They raised billions of dollars for their organizations to wreak terror, to wreak havoc across the state of Mexico. And fortunately, Donald Trump came in and shut down that border. That has hurt those cartels significantly. And they've said, they've labeled them, the administration has labeled them a terrorist organization. Now you can see, obviously the Mexican president has decided she will also go after them. She was the one who took this kingpin out. This has obviously had this reaction that you're seeing where they're starting to burn towns down and they're terrorizing people. And there was even video on the beach where you were just hearing gunshots, just bullets sprayed across the beaches. It's a very scary situation. I think it's time that it is dealt with, that these cartels are taken down. But it's going to be, we could potentially see what will resemble a war inside of Mexico.
Wow. And it's frightening. And I guess it's also another reminder why Donald Trump is so firm on shoring up the US border. This vindicates everything that he has been saying. This is the exact dangers in front when you've got people like this try to cross over the border into the United States, and you've got the lefty lunatics who are saying, no, we can't be arresting illegals. Well, have a look at what's going on in Mexico. Wake up and have a look what's going on. These are not the kind of people you want crossing into the United States. So it is a very frightening situation, as you say. Now, I want to change pace because we've got to talk about the New York City mayor, Zoran Mamdani. Another normal day over in Mamdani land. Now, if you want help to shovel snow ahead of the winter storm, roll up, but the caveat is you're going to need multiple forms of ID for anyone who'd like to register. And here was Mamdani earlier.
And we're utilizing 33 DSNY vans and 2 DSNY buses to transport shovelers where they're needed faster. And for those who want to do more to help your neighbors and earn some extra cash, you too can become an emergency snow shoveler. Just show up at your local sanitation garage between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow with your paperwork, which is accessible online at nyc.gov/snow, and you can get started right away.
Terrific. So, Tudor, this is hilarious because he wants help with snow shoveling, but it's also going to take you hours to register in the process.
Oh, yeah. And the interesting part is the man who does not want voter ID is going to require you to have 2 forms of ID. Not only 2 forms of ID, you also have to have copies of those IDs. You have to have tiny pictures of yourself. My gosh, how many people just have a 1.5-inch square picture of themselves? And you have to have your Social Security card, which I find fascinating because remember, in the 2024 campaign, I remember Kamala Harris saying that it was so radical that people would ask people to bring an ID to vote, because to get an ID, you might have to make a copy of your marriage license or of your birth certificate. And there's not a Kinko's just anywhere. You can't just go anywhere and get a copy of your ID. And this was like the most racist thing you could think. Also, the same people are the ones that are like, look, we've got to bring these immigrants into the country because they're going to do the jobs you don't want to do. Now they suddenly need a bunch of people to shovel snow. I'm guessing that you're not going to have all the marketing executives or the guys on Wall Street or the people walking out of television studios in New York City saying, you know what, we're going to do our part. We're going to fill out all this paperwork and we're going to shovel snow. It's probably going to be some of those people that they brought in and they said, we're going to give you housing and we're going to give you all this free stuff, that might want to actually make some money, but they can't make money under Mamdani. They don't have a right to that job under Mamdani because they don't have an ID. How is this possible? I mean, this just proves that their theory that you should not have to have an ID to vote is totally bunk. These are the same people that require you to have an ID to buy alcohol, that require you to have an ID to go to the doctor's office, that require you to have an ID to get on an airplane. So as soon as he did this, every Republican looked at this and said, pass the SAVE Act right now. If you can honestly, I mean, we're talking about you have to come with your real ID. That's it. To vote, just bring your real ID, the same one you get on a plane with. If you want to shovel snow in New York, you better have like 5 different pieces of documentation to actually be able to get paid. And you know what the leftists are saying? Oh, it's a government job. I'm like, well, wait a minute. You're going to require all this ID to work for the government, but nothing to hire the government. Doesn't matter. You can choose the government no matter what you are, but to get paid by the government, you're going to have to prove who you are. That's ridiculous.
I mean, it's just, again, it's just something out of Planet Mamdani land that doesn't make sense. I thought that everything was going to be free, firstly, free and easy under Mamdani, and yet it is 10 times harder. Another error by this mayor. Now, we've got another big week ahead. It's the all-important State of the Union. At least 12 Democrats are planning to ditch Donald Trump's address. Unsurprising, of course, they've got no respect, and I'm sure there'll be more hisses and discussions by the Democrats as he's trying to give this all-important speech. But what do you think we can expect?
Well, I do think you're going to see some of those people not show up. I think that some of the Democrats have actually told people, if you're going to act out, don't show up. It didn't go well for us in 25 when everybody came and acted out. So we're going to try to get we're going to make it sound like we're boycotting, and that's going to be a good look for us. I don't think it's going to be a good look for them. I think what they're going to end up, I mean, remember I think his name was DJ, the young boy who had brain cancer last year, they couldn't even stand up and clap for him. They looked so foolish. They didn't look foolish. They looked nasty. They looked like a group of very angry, nasty people who couldn't stand for a child, who couldn't celebrate the boy who was going to West Point, who couldn't celebrate, who couldn't honor the families of the young women who were murdered by illegal aliens. I think what you're going to see is Donald Trump is going to bring in a bunch of people like that. He's going to show what he's been able to do with prescription drugs. They're going to talk about what they're doing with health, where they're going to talk about taking some of these food dyes out. I think you'll see them talking about the prices going down, gas prices going down. He's going to talk about the Trump accounts. He's going to talk about all these things that he's doing. And I think he'll get into tariffs too. I think he'll point out, look at all the money that came in on tariffs. We're going to do it a different way. I believe it's the right way to do it. And he's going to prove that so far it has been the right way to do it. It has allowed him to create great trade deals, but also bring income into the United States that is desperately needed, an income that's not coming out of the American people's pockets. And it will also disprove the lie that people have been spinning that if you have these tariffs, prices are suddenly going to go up, because that hasn't been the case. He's also going to highlight some businesses, I'm sure, that he's brought to the United States. And that'll be something that Democrats will sit there and they'll have no response to. Because if you look at Democrat states, if you look at the Democrat governors who are even on the world stage, I mean, you had Gavin Newsom, you had Gretchen Whitmer, who were on the world stage, and they were trying to talk nasty about the president. But if you look at their states, they're failing. They haven't brought any businesses in. So they'll have to sit there and hear the president touting all of his successes, and they'll do their state of the states in the coming weeks, and they really won't have anything to brag about compared to what Donald Trump has done for the United States of America.
No, they'll have absolutely nothing to offer. And I just, before we let you go, I just want to ask you actually about the tariffs that you mentioned, because Donald Trump is now planning to hike that universal tariff rate from 10% to 15%. Although I had to laugh too to have a listen to this from CNN.
CNN's Vanessa Yurkevich is here. Vanessa, give us the reality check. Can President Trump impose these new tariffs?
Yes, he can, Jake.
Surprise! What a breakthrough. Yes, he can indeed. But take us through what this latest tariff hike will mean.
Yeah, well, Jake Tapper there was like, oh, I'm going to have to go write another book. So,
Yes.
To his shock, he can actually do it. This is going to mean that Donald Trump is going to find a way. He has a plan. He has some of the greatest economic minds around him. And you've seen them on the world stage. That's the one thing, that's a main difference between the Biden administration and the Trump administration. No one is hiding. No one is hiding from the cameras. When they have these events, they're all partaking in these events. If you looked at Munich, you saw Bessent, you saw Rubio, you saw Vance. Everybody is out there talking at these conferences. They're not shying away. And even if they're not there, they're doing the media at home talking about these conferences. So that's a big difference that you see between the Trump administration and the Biden administration. And these economic minds that are around him, they have figured out how to use these tariffs to make sure that the United States is in a great position. But it's not just the United States is in a great position. It's that when the United States is in a great position and can build up their military force and can be a strong United States, then the United States is able to make sure that the world stays at peace. That's why this is so important to have this control. And he's going to prove that these tariffs can work. And the Supreme Court may have knocked down one way. That's just one way. He'll find a way.
Yeah, as he always does. Let's see how that one unravels. Tudor Dixon, it has been wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you so much for all your insights. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.